My sister begged me for $850 rent money for months. I worked until collapse to help her. But when I discovered she never paid anything, and the money funded drugs and a secret baby, the truth I revealed destroyed them all. I'm 23 years old. I'm in my final year of college on a full scholarship. I work 2 part-time jobs to cover my expenses, and I basically just cut contact with my entire family because I discovered that for months I was financing my older sister's lifestyle and her ex-boyfriend's habits without knowing it. Yeah, you read that right. My own family used me as an ATM to support the person who's always been their golden child, and when I confronted them, they made me feel like I was the problem. But let me tell you the whole story from the beginning because this has been building for years. It's not something that just exploded out of nowhere. I grew up being basically invisible in my house. My sister Jessica is 25, 2 years older than me, and for as long as I can remember, she's been the family star. When we were kids, Jessica could literally do whatever she wanted, and my parents always had an excuse ready for her. She broke the window playing soccer in the house, when they'd told her 1,000 times not to. And my parents' response was, "Oh well, she has a lot of energy. She needs to express herself." I once forgot to take out the trash on a Thursday, and they took away my video game console for 2 weeks. You see what I mean? It wasn't subtle. It was so obvious that even my cousins noticed when they came over. But I was a kid, and I thought maybe it was normal. Maybe Jessica was special in some way I didn't understand. Things got worse in high school. Jessica failed like 3 classes in her junior year because, according to her, the teachers had it out for her, which was a lie because she basically never turned in homework and skipped a ton. My parents got her private tutors, talked to the teachers to get her makeup work, basically moved heaven and earth so she could graduate. I, on the other hand, had to maintain a perfect GPA because that was the only way I could pay for college, since my parents had made it very clear that the college savings fund they had was for Jessica. When I asked my mom why Jessica got the money if her grades were terrible, she told me Jessica needed more support because life was harder for her. I don't know what that means exactly, but I learned not to ask those questions. Jessica went to college, obviously, using the money that should have been for both of us. She lasted a year and a half before dropping out because, and I quote her words, she felt college wasn't for her and she needed to find herself. My parents accepted it without question. She moved into an apartment they partially paid for and got temp jobs here and there, nothing serious. She met Trevor when she was like 22, and this guy was a complete loser. He never had a stable job, always had some story about why he'd been fired or why the world was against him, and he basically lived off Jessica. But Jessica was obsessed with him, said he was her soulmate and all that stuff. My parents couldn't stand him at first, but eventually they resigned themselves to it because, well, it's Jessica, and Jessica always gets what she wants. Meanwhile, I was doing everything right, you know? I got my full scholarship to college, started working at a coffee shop from my freshman year to have money for my personal expenses, then got a second job on weekends at an electronics store. It wasn't easy. I had to balance classes, jobs, keep my grades high enough not to lose the scholarship, but I was managing it. My parents told me they were proud of me, but it was never with the same intensity they celebrated anything Jessica did. Jessica would get a part-time job at a store, and it was like she'd won the Nobel Prize. I'd maintain a 3.9 gigapascals, and it was, "Oh, that's good, son. Keep it up." Like 6 months ago. In May, I think. My parents called me on a Sunday afternoon. I was in my tiny apartment near campus, which I share with a roommate, resting after working all weekend. My mom sounded worried and told me they needed to talk to me about something important. My dad was on speaker too. They told me Jessica was going through a very difficult time financially, that she'd lost her most recent job at a boutique because the business closed, which I later found out was a lie. They fired her for constantly being late. The point is that Jessica couldn't pay her rent, was about to be evicted, and Trevor had left her like a month ago, so she was alone and desperate. My mom told me, "We need you to help us with this, Marcus. You're her brother and family supports each other." I asked why they weren't helping her, and my dad explained that they were already covering her other bills, the car, insurance, food, but they couldn't handle the rent too because they had their own expenses. which seemed weird to me because my dad has a good job as a manager at a manufacturing company and my mom works as a nurse. It's not like they're rolling in money, but they're not on the street either. But they made me feel guilty, said things like, Jessica has always been there for you. Remember when she lent you money for your laptop first semester? Which was true. She'd lent me $300 once, though I paid her back in full like 6 weeks later. So I agreed because, honestly, what else was I going to do? I felt horrible thinking about my sister being evicted. And yeah, we had our differences, but she's my sister, you know? Jessica's rent was $850 a month, which was a ton of money for me considering I was living on $1,200 a month between my two jobs after paying my share of rent and basic expenses. But I told them okay, that I'd send the money directly to Jessica each month for the next 3 months while she got a job. My parents thanked me like I'd saved their lives, said I was a good son and a good brother, and I felt good in the moment, despite knowing I was going to have to work extra hours and basically eat rice and beans all month. I started sending Jessica the money in early June. I'd send her $850 on the first of each month through Venmo. She'd send me a thank you message each time, sometimes adding something like, I'm going to pay you back, I promise, or you don't know how much this means to me. I was working like crazy to make up for the money I was sending, took extra shifts at the coffee shop, accepted every available shift on weekends at the electronics store. I was exhausted all the time. My grades started to drop a little. Not much, but I went from having a 3.9 to a 3.7, and I basically had no social life because every free moment I used to work or study. But here's where things get interesting, or rather, where I started to realize something didn't add up. It was July. I'd already sent Jessica 2 payments, and I was scrolling through Instagram one night because I couldn't sleep. I go to Jessica's profile, which she has public because she loves attention, and I see she's posting stories of her at expensive restaurants. Photos of new clothes she supposedly just bought at stores where a sweater costs like $200, videos of her drinking cocktails at trendy bars downtown, and I'm there, watching this at 2 in the morning after working 9 hours at the coffee shop, eating instant ramen because it's all I could afford, thinking, wait a minute, isn't my sister supposed to be in financial crisis? I sent her a casual message asking how everything was going, if she'd gotten a job yet. She responded the next day with something super vague like, yeah, I'm applying to several places. It's tough, but I'm managing. She didn't mention anything about the outings or the purchases or anything. I started paying more attention to her social media after that, and it was constant. Almost every day there was something new. A new purchase, a new outing. Her and her friends at some place that definitely wasn't cheap. I mentioned it to my cousin Derek, who's 26, and has always been like my real older brother, because Jessica never filled that role. And Derek told me straight up, bro, they're playing you. You should investigate what's happening with that money. So I did something I maybe shouldn't have, but I don't regret it. I checked Jessica's Venmo, which was also public because she liked people to see her transactions for some reason. And there it was, clear as day. Jessica was constantly sending money to Trevor. Trevor, the supposed ex-boyfriend who had left her and who she was supposedly devastated over. We're talking about transfers of $200, $300, $400 like 2 or 3 times a week. I did the math quickly in my head and realized that basically all the money I was sending her, plus probably money my parents were giving her, was going directly to Trevor. The dates lined up perfectly. I'd send her the $850 on the first of the month, and within the next few days, Jessica would send a series of transfers to Trevor that added up to similar amounts. I got so angry I was literally shaking. I called Derek immediately. It was like 11 at night, but I didn't care. I told him everything. Showed him the screenshots from Venmo, the Instagram photos, everything. Derek got almost as angry as I did and told me, you have to confront her now. Tomorrow. And I'm going with you because if you go alone, she's going to try to manipulate you, and you're too nice, and you'll let her. And he was right. I am one of those people who avoids conflict. But this was too much. The next day, which was a Saturday, Derek and I went to Jessica's apartment without warning. We rang the doorbell like 5 times before she opened, and when she did, she was in pajamas, even though it was 3 in the afternoon, looking like she'd slept all day. She saw us, and immediately her expression changed. She got defensive, asked what we were doing there. I went in without asking her permission, Derek behind me, and I told her, "We need to talk about the money I've been sending you." Jessica tried to play confused, said something like, "What about the money? I really appreciate it. I'm almost getting a job." And I exploded. I told her, "Stop lying to me, Jessica. I know you're sending my money to Trevor. I saw your Venmo. I saw everything." She was quiet for like 5 seconds, which felt eternal, and then she started crying. She started with the whole act of, "You don't understand. Trevor is going through a very difficult time. His parents kicked him out of the house. He needs help. I'm just being a good person." I asked her, "What about me? Don't I need my money? Do you know how many hours I work to be able to send you those $850 each month?" And she told me, "But you have your scholarship, you're fine, I have nothing." Derek intervened, told her she was being ridiculous, that I was sacrificing my well-being to help her, and she was wasting the money on a guy who was worth nothing. Jessica got angry at Derek, yelled at him to get out of her apartment, that this was between family. I told her I wasn't going to send her another cent, that this was over, and she started begging, promised. She was going to change, that she'd stop sending money to Trevor, that she really needed my help because if she didn't pay the rent, they were going to evict her. I asked her directly, "Did you use the money I sent you these 2 months for rent?" And she didn't answer me, just kept crying. That confirmed everything. I left the apartment with Derek, Jessica still yelling behind us about how we were bad family and how we were abandoning her when she needed us most. In the car, Derek told me I needed to tell my parents, that they had to know what was happening. I didn't want to because I knew they were going to defend Jessica, but Derek insisted they deserved to know the truth. That night, I went to my parents' house, but they live like 40 minutes from my apartment, so I don't see them often, usually just at family dinners or special occasions. I arrived and they were having dinner. I told them I needed to talk to them, and you could tell they knew something was wrong from my tone. I sat at the table, didn't even accept the plate of food my mom offered me because I was too angry to eat, and I told them everything. I showed them the screenshots, explained the dates, the amounts, everything. I thought they were going to get angry at Jessica, that they were going to understand she had used me. But no. My mom immediately started defending Jessica, said Jessica was in a complicated situation with Trevor, that I didn't understand the nature of their relationship, that Trevor had threatened to hurt himself if Jessica didn't help him. My dad was quieter but was also on Jessica's side. Said I had done the right thing helping my sister and that I shouldn't judge what she did with the money because she was an adult and made her own decisions. I told them, "Seriously? You don't care that she lied to me? That she basically robbed me?" And my mom told me not to use such strong words, that Jessica didn't rob me of anything, that I gave the money voluntarily. Technically, she was right, but the point was they had lied to me about what she needed the money for. I tried to reason with them for like another half hour, but it was useless. They were completely blind when it came to Jessica. My mom ended up telling me I was being selfish, that $850 wasn't that much money, and that I could afford to help my sister if I really cared. I reminded her I was working 2 jobs while going to college, that I barely had money for my own expenses, and she told me that was part of being an adult and being responsible. I left there feeling worse than when I arrived, and I decided in that moment that I wasn't going to send Jessica another penny no matter what my parents said. Like 3 weeks went by without me having contact with anyone in my family except Derek. It was weird. I usually talk to my mom at least once a week, even if just by text, but this time nothing. I was in my apartment on a Tuesday night, around 9, studying for an exam when someone knocks on the door way too hard. My roommate was still in class, so I went to open it, and there was Trevor, Jessica's ex-boyfriend, completely drunk. He smelled horrible, of alcohol and cigarettes, his clothes all wrinkled, and he was stumbling. He asked me where Jessica was. I told him I had no idea and to leave or I was going to call the police. He started laughing in a super uncomfortable way and dropped on me, "Oh, sure, nobody knows where Jessica is. Nobody knows about the baby either, right?" I froze. I asked him what he was talking about, and he, still laughing, told me, "Your sister has a 2-year-old son. Didn't she tell you? He's mine." Well, he was mine. Now who knows, because Jessica won't let me see him. I closed the door in his face and immediately called my parents. My mom answered, and I told her about Trevor, about what he'd said about the baby, hoping she'd tell me Trevor was crazy or making things up. There was a really long silence on the other end of the line, and then my mom sighed and said, "Marcus, that's not your business. Jessica didn't want you to know yet." I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. I asked them if it was true. If Jessica really had a son, they'd hidden from me for 2 years. My mom got defensive, said they had respected Jessica's decision to keep the child private, that she'd been through a lot and didn't need me judging her. I yelled at her. "I'm not judging her for having a child. I'm judging her for lying, for using my money probably to support Trevor while they raised a child together, and all of you were lying to me too." My mom hung up on me. I couldn't sleep that night. Everything made sense now. All the excuses, all the manipulation, all the drama. Jessica had been using everyone's money to maintain her life with Trevor and their child, and my parents were accomplices. I felt betrayed on a level I can't explain, like my whole life had been a lie. Derek called me the next day because my mom had told his mom, my aunt, about what happened. And Derek was outraged just like me. He told me I needed to cut contact with all of them, that they were toxic people and were using me. 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, and it was Jessica's apartment landlord. He asked if I was Marcus, Jessica's brother. And when I told him yes, he explained that Jessica had given him as an emergency contact and that he needed to talk to me. Turned out Jessica was 3 months behind on rent, was in the eviction process, and the landlord wanted to know if I was going to cover the debt. I asked him how much she owed, and he told me $2,550. I told him no, that I wasn't going to pay anything, and he thanked me for being honest and asked that if I talked to Jessica, I tell her she had until the end of the month to vacate. After hanging up, I sat there thinking about all this, about how Jessica had been sending me the money supposedly for rent but never paid anything, about how my parents knew about her situation and the child and never told me anything, about how they'd used me as a source of income to finance Jessica's disaster of a life. I called the landlord back and told him the whole story, showed him the Venmo transfers, the dates, everything. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted someone else to know the truth, for someone to validate that I wasn't crazy for being angry. Jessica was indeed evicted at the end of August. My parents took her into their house along with the child, whose name I don't even know because nobody has told me. Derek told me because his mom told him, since apparently everyone in my family knew the details of Jessica's life except me. According to Derek, Jessica is now living rent-free with my parents. They're taking care of the child while she supposedly looks for work, which we all know means she's sitting watching Netflix all day. 2 weeks ago, my dad sent me a text message. It was the first time he'd tried to contact me since the fight. The message said, "Marcus, I know you're angry, but Jessica really needs help now. She's going through severe depression and needs psychological treatment that costs money. Could you help us with $300 a month for her therapy?" I read it like 5 times, unable to believe they were seriously asking me for more money after everything. I responded with a long message explaining that I wasn't going to give them another cent, that Jessica was an adult and needed to take responsibility for her decisions, that I had worked too hard for my money to keep financing her life, and that I was extremely disappointed in them, as parents, for allowing this behavior. I also told them that until they treated me with the same respect and consideration they treated Jessica, I wasn't going to have contact with them. My dad responded with something short. "Okay, if that's how you want things." My mom hasn't written to me again. I obviously haven't heard anything from Jessica. Derek tells me my family talks badly about me now, that they say I'm selfish and ungrateful, that I think I'm too good after they raised me. Which is ironic considering Jessica is the one who's lived off them her entire adult life, and I've been independent since I started college. I'm in my last semester of college. I graduate in December. My grades went back up now that I'm not working extra hours to support Jessica. In fact, I'm back to my 3.9. I saved enough money these last few months to be able to move into an apartment by myself after graduating. I won't need a roommate anymore. I got a job offer at a real estate company that starts in January with a decent salary. My life, for the first time in a long time, feels like it's mine, like I'm not carrying the weight of my family's expectations or Jessica's drama. Do I feel guilty sometimes? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. There are moments when I think about Jessica and the child. I wonder how they are. if the child is okay. But then I remember everything that happened, all the lies, all the manipulation, and I realize I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Jessica has had every opportunity in the world, all the financial and emotional help from my parents and from me, and she's wasted it all. My parents chose to enable her behavior instead of forcing her to grow up and be responsible, and that was their decision. Last week, Derek invited me to his house for a barbecue with some of our other cousins. It was the first family gathering I'd gone to in months, though technically it was just my mom's side of the family, and my parents and Jessica weren't invited. Everyone was amazing to me. Asked how I was, congratulated me for being about to graduate, made me feel valued. My aunt, Derek's mom, hugged me and told me she was proud of me for setting boundaries, that it was something she wished she'd done when she was younger with her own family. It was weird but also liberating to be with family, who actually appreciated me for who I am, and not for what I could give them. I guess the lesson here, if there is one, is that family doesn't always mean the people you share blood with. Sometimes real family is the people who support you, who respect you, who treat you as an equal and not as a source of resources. Cutting contact with my parents, and Jessica was one of the hardest decisions I've made, but it was also necessary. I can't keep living my life, trying to earn the love and approval of people who are clearly never going to see me with the same value they see Jessica. And that's okay. I'm at peace with that now. Will I talk to them again someday? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe if Jessica finally grows up and apologizes, if my parents acknowledge how unfair everything was, but I'm not holding my breath waiting for that to happen. For now, I'm focused on my future, on building a life that makes me happy, surrounded by people who really care about me, and that, after everything I went through, feels like enough.